Shalom. This video is about Torah. Now, when we say Torah, it refers to many things. The most narrow definition of a Torah scroll, a Sefer Torah, is a scroll on animal parchment that contains in Hebrew the 5 books of Moses, the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible. They are in English Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. One good way to remember that is the expression, good eaters leave no dessert. Good eaters leave no dessert would be G for Genesis, E for Exodus, etc. In Hebrew, they go by the first major word of each of the 5 books. They are Breshit, Shmot, Vayikra, Bamidbar, and Devarim. So that is a Sefer Torah. Now, when you come into the synagogue, you often find a book, either you're handed or in the pews, that's also a Torah. It's usually the 5 books of Moses with English translation, and in between each portion of the 54 portions we divide the Torah into is a prophetic portion that we also chant on Shabbat and holidays called a Haftorah. Now, also when you say someone's a Torah true Jew, means that they live a Jewish life. Studying Torah could be the 5 books of Moses, it could be Bible, it could be rabbinic literature. It's also used in a broader sense. Now, what is the story of the Torah? Well, it begins with the creation of the world. Then we have, and of course, Adam, Eve, their children, being exiled from the garden. The story of Noah and the ark. 10 generations later, we have Abraham, about 1900 BCE. The story of he and Sarah, the expulsion of Hagar and Ishmael, the birth of Isaac, and then Isaac and Rebekah's children, Jacob and Esau. Esau and his begins the other part of the world. Jacob is the patriarch of the Jewish people. He marries 2 women, Rachel and Leah, and 2 concubines. They have 12 sons and a daughter. The 12 sons become the 12 tribes of Israel. And at the end of the story, one of his sons, Joseph, is mistreated by his brothers, sold into slavery into Egypt, and there rises in Egypt, becomes number 2 to Pharaoh. Jacob and the family migrates down, and they settle in Egypt. And Joseph and his family is now held in high esteem. Exodus begins with a new dynasty who didn't recall the wonders of Joseph and enslaves the Israelites as part of the prophecy and covenant of God to Abraham. Finally, Moses is raised up. He brings forth a demand from Pharaoh to let my people go. God brings forth 10 plagues, and of course, Pharaoh in the end relents. The Israelites leave. They go to Sinai. They get the Torah. And then they march in the desert for 40 years. And the rest of the books of Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers tell that story. In the meantime, there are several sections in Exodus which tell us about the construction of the tabernacle. Leviticus, also called the Book of the Kohanim, has many of the rules of the Levites and the priests and how they govern. The Book of Numbers has many fascinating, important stories. The rebellion of Korach, the prophecy of Bilam, who was supposed to curse the Israelites and instead bless them. The story of the 2.5 tribes wanting to camp on the outside of Israel, not within the story. The 5 daughters of Zelophehad who demand the law to be changed, asked it to be changed because it wasn't fair. Many fascinating stories. When Numbers ends, that's really the end of the story, pretty much. Deuteronomy is a recapitulation of the first 4 books in the guise of Moses. Now, Orthodox Jews believe the entire thing was written from God to Moses. All other scholars believe that it was written over many centuries by many people. Deuteronomy, in fact, is much later. It reflects some differences in the laws, like centralized sacrifice and worship. In any case, that is the Torah, the 5 books of Moses. Besides the stories, it contains hundreds of laws. By Orthodox tradition, there are 613. But if you ask the rabbis, ancient rabbis, what are the 613, they will differentiate. They have differences among them. But we know there are hundreds of laws. All you have to do is read the text, and it says, God commanded to Moses, saying, command the children of Israel to do such and such. Many, many laws. The Torah is our most sacred possession. We treat it very carefully. We keep them in special closets called the Aron HaKodesh, the Holy Ark. We dress them with mantles. They have usually elaborate silver decorations. They have ties. We don't touch the scroll because we're afraid of rubbing out the letters and getting them dirty. We use an object to refer to the letters called a yad, a hand. When the Torah is raised, we stand. When it passes by us, we generally kiss it or use our fringes to kiss it to show veneration. Not that it itself is holy, but because it represents the Word of God, inspired through human beings writing it, that we treat it with such reverence. It obviously is the basis of all Western civilization and religion, and the most sacred thing to the Jewish people. And so that is a brief understanding of the Torah.